Hi guys, I'm Nick Titman. This is David Titman. We're the driver and co-driver for Titman Racing. We got a crew here in the background. They're video calling in for this video. We kind of wanted to do a little recap of our first year of rally. What was actually going on behind the scenes. When we got started in rally, we were starved for information. So I wanted to put this video together and share the struggles we went through and what we learned over our first year of rally to help new competitors find that information so they can have a bit more of a leg up than we did coming into it. So I'll go ahead and introduce the guys here. Why don't we start with Jared?
Jared Harder, crew chief, car builder.
All right, then we got Sam.
Hey guys, I'm Sam Lawrence, mechanic, and make the car go fast safely.
All right, and then we got Ryan.
Hey guys, Ryan Settlemeyer here. Just a service crew helping do everything from looking everything over and washing windows, whatever's needed.
All right, so yeah, a couple of years ago, we decided that we were going to go rally. I'd been familiar with rally for a few years, mostly through video games. It got my curiosity way up, especially considering the suspension of the car. Like, I had to find out how these little street cars were doing what they were doing. So I ended up buying a date night car for me and the wife that I was going to put a bunch of fun rally bits in it. I ended up getting a Fiesta ST because it had the most support for aftermarket parts out of all the potential rally cars you can get here in the US. That ended up not making a very comfortable date night car, so I ended up getting a new car for that. And I had this half rally built Fiesta sitting there when Jared had the brilliant idea, let's finish the build. So I decided that, yeah, all right, why not? Let's do this. Let's build the car. And I talked to Jared about it, and Jared was agreeing to do the build. He has a business where he works on pickup trucks, and he's all about putting performance parts on vehicles. So this sounded like it was going to be something fun for him at the time. And then, so I was like, okay, who's going to be my co-driver? And there's only one person I know crazy enough to do that, and that's Dave here. We did a little bit of side-by-side racing, cross-country side-by-side racing previously. And so I knew he was probably going to be my best bet. So why don't we start with Dave here. Dave, what was it like for you? What was going through your head when I decided I wanted to start rallying? And I asked you if you wanted to come with me.
I was totally in. It sounds like a really fun time. There was a lot more to co-driving than I originally thought. Sno Drift was a big eye-opener.
We'll get to that.
And learned a lot of different things to watch out for and what to do and what you can do wrong real quick.
How did you feel about sitting in my passenger seat as the co-driver for, like, at first? Like, I didn't have any rally skills at all. The idea that we were going to go out and do this, like, how comfortable were you with the idea of having me doing the driving?
Extremely comfortable overall. I've seen you drive all sorts of stuff and all sorts of situations. And our first one was in the snow, which really helps. I know it doesn't help on a tree impact, but you can't go as fast as you could like out west on those big straightaways. So we had some practice time in before we got to those.
Right. And then, so then I brought him on board. The next step was Jared had already agreed to build the car. Jared, you want to tell us about what some of your expectations for the build were when we got started?
When Nick first talked to me about building the car, thought it was going to be a really neat, fun experience. Get to build something really cool. First priorities for me were always safety from the start. So cage was important, seats, harnesses, fire suppression. Dave's my brother-in-law and Nick is my wife's cousin, so I knew I'd be in trouble if either you two got hurt. The whole build drug out and took a lot more than anticipated. So there was a lot of learning curves along the way, and I know we'll cover some of that as we go here.
All right. Okay, so that was a little bit of Jared and how he got started with the car. Now, to find these other two guys, they're family, they're friends, we knew them, But I ended up reaching out on Facebook, looking for people who'd be interested in volunteering to come be on my crew. And one of the first people to respond to that was Sam. So Sam, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in mechanics, and how you came to join the team?
Yeah. So I've been working on cars as long as I've been able to drive them. And I've been doing it professionally for about 12 years or so now. And when I heard you wanted to go racing, I've always liked rally. I'll admit I didn't know a whole lot about it, but yeah, I wanted to do it as soon as I heard about it. So yeah, and when I got there, Jared had built a really good car. We had a really professional looking setup, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of learning, and yeah. So.
All right, cool. And then lastly, we came to Ryan. Ryan, you've been good friends with Jared for a long time. They've known each other longer than I've known either of them. And he was an obvious fit for me in the first place. And so Ryan, why don't you go ahead and explain a little bit about yourself and your background and how you came into being in the crew.
Yeah, so obviously got the connection just by being friends with Jared for a long time. Him and I used to race four-wheelers back in the day, well, he did. I just tried to do whatever I could, I guess, having fun out there. But I'm a CNC programmer by trade, so, anything mechanical always interests me. And, I've worked on several stuff, sort of a amateur YouTube mechanic. So anything that needs to be fixed, I'm always trying to figure out and learn new skills and see what to do. And it's a good excuse to go hang out with one of your best friends. So that's what one of the things that interested me about rally, and it's always a fun time hanging out with any of the Titmans. So
he said amateur mechanic. I've seen him post pictures of a Dodge truck taken apart like 6 different times on Facebook. Full motor and tranny out.
At the same time, he just reposted it.
Yeah, most people don't have a bare truck frame sitting in their front yard or driveway where we had that thing at.
All right. So there we were. We decided to go rallying. We put together a team, and one of the first steps was training. So me and David decided we're going to take some time and go to Team O'Neill. But I wanted to optimize my training with Team O'Neill. We're giving Jared a good a year really to build the car. And during that time, me and Dave, we went up to Team O'Neill in the winter. We did the first 3 days with a 5-day course. And then later that year, in the end of summer, we came back and we finished days 3 through 5. And we did it in the 2 separate times a year so that we could maximize our training with Team O'Neill in varying different conditions. And I think that was a really smart move on our part. And, and in the time in between, we all started off and we went up to Sno Drift to go spectate. That's one of the closest rallies to home. And, of course, it was the one year they didn't have snow. So we got to do a bit of spectating there. And later in the summer, I went and I volunteered at Southern Ohio Forest Rally, just trying to gain as much experience as I could. But then as the months were creeping by, we were running into all kinds of barriers with getting the car built. So, there's specific rally parts you want to be using in your build that are, like, I guess you could call them rally certified. And trying to find that information was a bit of a nightmare. Jared, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, it all starts with the original build. It all starts with a cage. When you start out a car, you need to do cage first. And the rally regulations and rules are very specific on the cage, considering that's basically the biggest safety feature of the car. They're very specific on what they want. And there's definitely, knowing what we know now, there's more people out there. But when you're first starting, trying to figure out that information of who to go to, who's the best fit for you, time-wise, financially-wise, everything like that, it takes knowledge that's not readily available. We ended up getting our cage built from a local guy from where I live. He does a lot of sprint car cages, and He's a full-time cage builder. I've seen a lot of his work, all look great. Hadn't done a lot of rally cars. Talked with him. He seemed confident, seemed ready to go, looked at the regulations, assured us we'd be good to go. So we went with him. It's kind of a leap of faith in that aspect. We didn't know for sure we were going to pass tech inspection until we got to our first event. And by that point, you've already built the entire car. So it's one of those, cross your fingers and start praying and hope everything works out like it's supposed to. Depending on who you talk to in the cage building industry and the race car industry, there's a lot of different opinions. I'm not a cage builder myself. That's one of two components of the car I didn't do. I think we got a really strong cage. There's people that will pick certain parts of it. I don't know. My experience is we've had zero issues with our car and with our cage. We've had no major impacts on the car, so I can't tell you how it holds up in that kind of instance. But I know so far with everything we've done, it's held up great. From there, it really depends on how you want to build a car. There's a lot of components you got to take out. These rally cars can't have any airbags. All the self-restraint, airbags, anything like that, collision avoidance has to be removed or deactivated. Depending on to what extent you build the car is to what you have to do to overcome and defeat those safety features if you're still running a factory electronics. So there's a ton of learning curves. And then even down to, we put a fuel cell in the car. It's not a requirement, but it is by far safer. Going back to where I wanted to be on safety, I was adamant on it. But, it's a modern car, and adapting two different systems that weren't initially designed to work together, there's some learning curves there. We had some issues we worked through with some help of some great teammates and basically mentors for our rally program that really helped us straighten out this car. A lot of it just came from inexperience and lack of information out there as far as our initial issues. But I think we got a lot of it hammered out. There is some information out there when you start looking at how to build a car, what parts to use, suppliers to go through. But until you really get into the weeds of it, you don't know what you don't know, basically, starting out. There's a lot of stuff that changes, and a lot of it's model specific depending on the car you're working with. So you got to definitely find some people that are willing to help you that are familiar with the vehicle you're building.
Right. And speaking of those people that we were trying to find, I was hounding Team O'Neill on almost a daily basis trying to find information. When they put me in contact with a company called TRF, Thompson Racing Fabrication, and we ended up using them a lot, not just in the building process of the car, but then later throughout the rally season, they were providing us support throughout the entire rally season. Some of the things that we were running into barriers trying to find were like the correct diff. We would want the Cusco diff we wanted to put in our Fiesta ST. And he's a supplier for that. And finding the fuel cell, you mentioned the fuel cell, that was also supplied by them. Like trying to find the correct equipment and something that we know that's rally safe was difficult. And Jared, do we need to bring up the seam welding?
We'll bring that up. I'll drop a little plug for TRF though. I mean, they are by far, from what I've seen in the rally world, one of the most knowledgeable when it comes to these Fiestas. So if you are building a Fiesta, reach out to TRF. They can get you every part you need for the car to make it safe and make it raceable and make it competitive. Great guys to work with, easy to work with. So they're a great resource if you are building a Fiesta. Nick mentioned seam welding. That was one of those things. It's not a requirement in the rally world. It helps with longevity, and it obviously stiffens the chassis. We're not a street car. It sounds bad when I say it, but not every rally car has to be perfectly straight or level or even, because the roads we're driving on are never straight, level, or even. So as far as, keeping the car true and straight, that's less concern as far as the actual chassis. Obviously, we don't want it to be twisted or tweaked or anything like that, but we still want to make it stiff so the car stays together, basically. These unibody cars, over time on the gravel roads, if you don't reinforce them, they will actually vibrate themselves apart, start breaking the spot welds, and then you're chaos down the road and you're chasing all sorts of problems. So we went ahead and took the time while the car was stripped apart and seam welded the entire engine bay, all the suspension components, all the suspension areas, door jambs, floor pans, exhaust tunnels. Basically, every seam we could find and get to, we stitch welded. It's one of those, and it makes the car last longer. Is the big thing on it. But it is a very tedious process.
Right. So actually, I got one thing to share with you guys. It was during this process that we did take a funny picture. Is it coming through for you?
That's it. Yeah.
We were ready.
Everything is out.
Oh, perfect. I think I got that covered. So that was one of the few pictures I managed to find before we got started. But I made sure I had that one. All right, so yeah, the seam welding was a very lengthy process, and it kind of put us behind schedule a little bit. So it's time to start talking about Sno Drift and coming into our first rally. And yeah, we had to get the car finished, and so yeah, we had to get the car finished. I just had to check my notes there. And we were running out of time. We were talking about doing a proper shakedown on the car, and that was something we just ended up not having time to do. Someone in the rally community I overheard talking one day, and he says, as soon as your car is finished built, you're still a month away from being able to race. And if we had actually taken that time to shake down the car and learned a thing or two about how to set it up proper, it would have saved us a lot of trouble throughout our first rally season. So, yeah, coming into that first rally, Jared, what time in the morning was it that you finished
the
it?
car was leaving at 8 a.m. I believe I finished the car at approximately 4:30 a.m. that morning. You picked it up, I think, 3.5 hours after I finished it.
Picked it up, drove it up to the rally. We went to our first shakedown. We didn't know what we were doing there. We basically just ran the stage and said, yep, it's still running and it didn't break. So nothing broke. We're good.
Yes.
All right.
Needless to say, that was a stressful time for me.
Yeah, and then Jared just finished his car, and we're heading into our first ever rally, and it's a bunch of slippery ice and snow. And he was sweating bullets that the car was going to survive the first rally. All that work just to have it go out the window in a few stages. Like, I don't blame him for that one. But so, all right, so here's a few of the things that I ran into at Sno Drift as a driver. First off was early on, I was exiting like a 5 right, and I tried to add just a tiny bit of brake just to control my front wheels. When the whole car kicked out and we're spinning back and forth across the road, I have a clip of that. I'll have to find it. I'll probably upload it like here.
Here.
So that's how that went, and then I immediately came back and I told Jared, I was like, Jared, it's got too much rear brake. And so he told me how to adjust the knob, and I twisted the knob in the direction he said. I really didn't feel much of a difference. We kind of lowered that rear air pressure a little bit to kind of help keep that rear end from kicking out so much. Really, we probably did have too much rear brake. That comes into play later. But also, our suspension setup was not good. So that could also have been causing quite a bit of oversteer. That was kind of my take on Sno Drift and what really stuck with me. After that, I really just dialed it back and I just kind of focused on finishing. So another thing that happened at Sno Drift is we, shall I say, popped Dave's co-driving cherry. Dave, why don't you talk a little bit about what it was like co-driving on your first stage, your preparation you had coming into it, what you had wish you had done beforehand, and just the things that in general caught you off guard.
Yeah, it was quite a bit going on there. The first time that we used the Jemba notes, but we modified them ourselves during recce, and I didn't realize it at the time, but they give you route books, and after we had to transit the first stage, was it the first? No, first stage we ran.
Ooh, don't forget, we were also went over time on recce and ended up with a penalty right there in the very beginning.
Yeah, you have to be off the stage at the end of recce time. You can't be mid-stage.
We thought we could start the stage before the time was over, and then, you know, if it ended while we were mid-stage, we were allowed to finish the stage. That's not the case.
You have to be off stages by the time.
Yeah, I think we did one stage, and then we got to the second stage, and they canceled it.
Transit, which the transits...
No, we didn't transit the stage. They just routed us
we had to
around
reroute to
the
the next stage.
Yeah.
Which those are typically found at the back of the route book. Nobody told me that. The other one, though, was I didn't realize in the tulips that they give you the tulips for the actual stage in the middle of the route book. So we're leaving the first stage, and I'm telling you which way to go, and we saw the car in front of us, and it went the opposite direction. And I'm going, oh no, this says to turn right. What is happening? And it took me about a mile and a half, and then of course there's nowhere to turn around. We don't have a rear view mirror, and you have to pull in, and we just kind of like, hopefully nobody's back there looking out the windows. And that was when I found that they put the actual notes in there for the stage you're on. You have to flip several to go to the next transit.
Right. And then when they cancel a stage like that, to bypass that stage, a lot of times they'll just let you transit the stage at transit speed. But sometimes they tell you to go around and just avoid the stage altogether and just go to the next one. And quite often they will have separate instructions, bypass instructions for that in a separate place in the route book that they give you. That was something we didn't figure out for quite a while.
Oh no, I found it out after that, once they made us do it. Because they give you the coordinates, and I had the coordinates, and that's what I plugged in to get us to the next stage. But in the back of the route book is where they tell you, hey, if you need to skip this stage and go from, let's say, from 11 to 13 and skip 12, this is how you do it.
Right. And that was another thing, too, was just understanding what our actual start time was supposed to be, our arrival time. During that first rally, I remember we goofed that up quite a bit because we were just backwards on what our actual start time was supposed to be. It's a little bit tricky. If you go into, they have some new driver classes you have to take when you start rallying. Really pay attention to the time card part and figure out when your entry time is supposed to be. You know, a lot of people get confused on that, so make sure you ask as many questions as you can. I remember we also were just unfamiliar with the event. Not everything's labeled clearly. Our first time coming back to service, we had no idea where the arrival point was, and we just showed back up at our trailer. Jared, you might remember that in particular.
Oh yeah. I was real confused because, there were some other cars coming in and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden, we're first rally, we're towards the tail, but you beat over half the field in, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure we're not supposed to be here yet. So it was a pretty stressful moment for all involved, but it got straightened out, and definite learning curves.
Definitely. Okay, Sam and Ryan, you guys were at Sno Drift. One of you guys want to hop in and tell us what your take on the event was?
Yeah, sure. Sno Drift was my first rally. It was all of our first rallies. And I didn't really know what we were getting into. All I knew about rallies is what I'd seen on YouTube. So, cars are cars, and working on cars is it's basically all the same. But when you're racing, your goals are completely different. So there's a bit of a learning curve. But once I picked up on what we're trying to do and what we got to do to keep this car running well, I felt like we all kind of clicked really quick with it. But this whole season, it was, everything was a new experience to us. So we're just, it was a lot of learning while you go, and we made some mistakes that we're not going to make again going forward. And, but yeah, Snowdrift was a really fun experience. I remember the first time you were coming in for your first service. I was kind of nervous. I was like, this is a no mistake situation here, and I've been working on cars my whole life. So, but yeah, I mean, you guys drove well. You kept the car in good shape, and we didn't really have to do a whole hell of a lot. Just clean it up whenever you came in there, and make our adjustments, things like that. But yeah, Snowdrift was. I had a lot of fun. I learned quite a bit. So it was a pretty good intro to the season.
For sure. How about you, Ryan? Was there anything that stood out to you from Snowdrift?
Yeah. Thursday morning, hopping in the car, and Jared says, "Drive it," and I'm like, seriously, after all this work you put in, you're gonna have me drive this thing to tech? It's like, I think that's probably the nervous I've been, and that was after the I'm sure the graceful entry of my tall body climbing through the cage.
I was gonna say I was gonna interrupt him there, and part of that was purely just to see if him being 6'5" could fit in a caged Fiesta.
Surprisingly, once I got in, it wasn't that bad. But I mean, we had no speedometer, no GPS. We had pulled up like maps or Waze or something just to say, because I'm like, man, last thing I want to do is get a ticket. But when I think back to Snowdrift, I just remember thinking, wow, this was definitely we didn't know what we didn't know yet. And once by the time we got a few rallies in and figured out what we're supposed to be doing and all the services, it was just kind of comical and surprising that we survived Snowdrift without any major incidents. And the one big thing that we're going to have to remember to do this year is after the ceremony, we're going to have to rebrush off all the wheels. So that way we don't have a popsicle again.
Yeah. After the event, the car got parked in the trailer, taken home, and I believe it was a solid 3 days of trying to thaw out before I could get the wheels to even turn. It was an ice cube.
One of the things that had happened coming into Snowdrift was we had a lot of family member being concerned about our safety. And Dave in particular was getting attacked about this on a regular basis. And how is it you described it, Dave? You're like, no, it's going to be like reading him a bedtime story.
Yeah, I just have to sit there and read notes. I don't have to do the driving. And I know that Stephanie would kill you if you died in a rally accident. So I don't have to worry about you pushing it that hard. As in, like, deathly hard.
Right. All right, so that was a funny bit. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. So we were heading into 100 Acre Wood, and I had goofed up and not managed to schedule testing. And this came as a crushing blow to me. Now, in between Snowdrift and 100 Acre Wood, through TRF, I was introduced to Chris Sear. And Chris Sear wanted to start a new video series that's called the Send It Stories. So, of course, I signed up for that. You can check out that series. It started on the Team O'Neill channel for the first 2 episodes, and then Melee Media took it over after that. They were the film crew that was running the whole operation. But through my introduction to Chris, Chris offered me an opportunity to ride with him in his car at testing. So I couldn't go testing, but at least I got to go ride with Chris. And Chris was a phenomenal driver. He ended up taking first in class this year. And he was basically dominating. And I got to ride in the car with him. And the biggest thing that stood out to me then was I could see the experience he had. Like he knew exactly how much grip he had in the tires. And in a turn where I might have hesitated, he was full throttle through it. And it was perfectly fine. And that just kind of shocked me. I was like, I wasn't actually expecting that. And he tried to tell me some of the important things that he learned as a new driver. And he told me an experience, and I had actually learned a lot of these things already because for my training program, it wasn't just Team O'Neill. I started practicing in a simulator, and I went full out on that. Full motion simulator, virtual reality, the works. And I had learned a lot of really important lessons as a rally driver. And one of those was like, you don't want to be revving your motor out to the rev limiter every time. Like most of the time on gravel, that's a bad idea. Because once your torque drops off and you're all horsepower, that just means wheel spin. And that's not helping you. And there's other little things like, and Chris had a very similar experience where he was told you have to drive slower to go faster. It's the slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And that is really, really true, guys. And it's really, really hard to not just come charging harder into the corners and stab more throttle on the way out. You're losing time doing that. That's not helping you. So I actually started with my little catchphrase around then. I said, I got one speed and that's smooth. And that's what I meant is, it's just one corner at a time, and I was trying to maximize my use of the road and being smooth where I could. But it was our first, we still had the issue of the brakes. And I'm asking anybody and everybody, like, how do you set your brakes? And we get some good advice that went wrong. So what we were told is basically when the front wheel drive, you're staying on the gas, you slam on the brakes, and if the rear end steps out, you got too much rear brake. Sounds simple enough, but the problem is when you're doing that on gravel, we were on like a test stage later at a different rally, and there was only so many flat, smooth spots you could actually do that. And if you're hitting the same test stage and you're slamming the brakes in the same spot every time, you're actually digging a rut. And so we had tried to set up the car like this heading into 100 Acre Wood when we didn't find this problem yet, but because of that rut we were digging, we were twisting the dial and the car was stepping out less and less and less each time. But we were hitting the same spot every time. And we were actually adding more and more rear brake every time we did this, and we thought we were adding front brake. And this was the start of a lot of problems for us. But so we went to 100 Acre Wood. This is my first time, as all of our first time running an actual gravel stage. I didn't know what I was doing with my pace notes. Like I was fairly confident they were going to be okay, but for most of that rally, I was just feeling it out, and I was paying attention to the speedometer, and I wasn't. But I was just kind of feeling it out and getting an idea of like what's too slow for a 6, what's too slow for a 3. And then I was able to add a little more and more speed and start getting a little more and more sideways into each of these turns. Later, I would go back and watch my onboards, and my onboards which had GPS speed on it. And I was able to see how fast I could go through a turn without the car breaking loose. And then I was able to compare that back to my simulator, and then I could start to build an understanding of the sim versus real life and how fast I can actually hit those turns. And it actually turned out my simulator was saying I could hit just about every turn about 10 mile an hour faster than I actually could in real life. So there was a hazard there, but I didn't just trust the sim flat out. I took my time, and I got that figured out. But there was another big issue at 100 Acre Wood, and that one kind of baffled us. Who wants to start on this one? The fuel pump.
I can take some lead on this one. It all started, it was a cascade of events of what actually happened for us. We made it through Sno Drift, don't ask me how, with 0 issues. Car ran flawlessly for us the entire time, so we thought. But it's cold, snow, not a lot of traction, nothing major. We get to 100 Acre Wood, and I know that first day we make it through the park expose. We get out on stage, and second stage, right off towards the beginning of it, you hit a real rocky section. I remember watching the video, you tell me everything about it, lost an axle. We get through the stage, and the car shut down on you, and we get a call. This is rally number 2, trying to figure out where you're at, how to come pick you up. Couldn't get the car to fire. As the crew chief, I'm trying to pack up, like I said, figure this out because we haven't done this before. This was all new. And trying to figure out where to come get you, how to get there, and also at the same time thinking, what in the world is wrong with this car? Needless to say, we get out there, we get you loaded up, get you back in pits, and we fought that car through forest fires and tornadoes and hailstorms till about 2 a.m. And at the time, we still had no clue what the hell went wrong, but we got it running. And we were able to continue on from there after changing out an axle and getting it going. But up until that point, even at that point, we didn't know what we had done to actually fix the car. We tried 2 different starters, I believe it was, ran all the circuitry. I mean, there wasn't really anything we didn't check at that point, and everything seemed to and appeared to be working as it was supposed to. So we were just kind of baffled. But some of it kind of goes back to, we've said it twice now talking about this stuff. You just don't know what you don't know. There was a lot of that we learned this year. And, I can let some of the other guys talk about some of it too here. So.
Yeah, 100 Acre Wood was real interesting. It was the first experience at sort of how bad all the rallies can go. We lost the axle, and Nick and Dave both showed back up in the pits, and they're still in high spirits. So that was like, all right, cool. They can still find the fun in it even when things start to go haywire. But then, the ride home was definitely crazy. And we lost count how many times we swapped the starters in and out, and just thought it was a battery. But it was sort of the first one I remember thinking that throughout the year, like, okay, this will be the rally that everything goes smooth and they'll run all the stages. And I think from that thought all the way through, there was never a single rally that we ran all the stages, but could hear on the radio that they were canceling stuff for forest fires and then storm rolling in. And it was definitely a late night thrashing on the car trying to get it fixed. And it was a fun one.
Sam, what's your take on it?
Yeah, well, 100 Acre Woods was, so we're coming off Sno Drift and everything went pretty smoothly at Sno Drift, and going into 100 Acre Wood, things did not go smoothly at all. It felt like real racing, like this is a sport, and we had some challenges, and we had some issues with the car too, and we had a lot of electrical gremlins we had to track down. We're up till 2 a.m. Like Jared said, there was a forest fire, there was tornadoes, there was all sorts of crazy stuff going on around us, and we're out in this little trailer, rocking in the wind, just working on this car. Never really found out what went wrong with it that night, but we did get it going, and we got it ready for the next day. And it felt good though. It felt like real racing. We had some real adversity there, and we all came together as a team, and we finished it. So
yeah. We made it,
and we learned. We learned from that one too. So
yeah, we made it through the end of that and got to the end. I know 100% by the end of that. There's video proof of Nick and Dave both cussing me in the video. We'll explain later. But
we thought we had it traced down to the battery, and at one point in time we pulled the recce car, which is also a Fiesta ST, out. So we put it in there and thought, oh yeah, it's got to be the battery. It's got to be the battery. So when we put suspected bad battery back in the recce car and it fired right off, we went, all right, we're chasing something.
Yeah, we drove that car with the bad battery the rest of the weekend.
So 2 things was, one, I do recall the battery being part of the issue, and I had my theory about why that had actually happened. I had overheated the starter motor in the recce car before, and I'd given it like an hour to cool off, and it never cleared that signal. So my suspicion was when they were swapping the batteries, Sam says if you touch the end of the terminals together, it'll actually clear the codes. And I think it might have cleared that starter motor overheat code. And then the starter motor would finally fire again. And I think it was a computer bug that held it off. I don't think these guys ever fully agreed with me on that. We'll get their take on that. But Sam, did you also have to dodge some things in the RV driving back in that storm?
Yeah, I almost ran over a cow. So yeah, in all the hail of the tornadoes, someone's cow pasture, their fence had came down, and I was coming over a hill with poor visibility in a hailstorm, an RV, and there's a bull or a cow. I couldn't tell you, standing right there in the middle of the road. So yeah, I dodged it, which I thought was pretty agile, for that 30-foot RV. Yeah, felt like a
I,
movie Twister.
I remember getting back with the truck and trailer and just being like, all right, we're here. And then going, oh, shoot, Sam's in the RV and he ain't here yet.
That was a learning point for me when Jared mentioned that we were cussing him out. We were driving back, and we had called Jared, and I just told him, I said, get the recce car battery, because we thought swapping the battery was the fix. So I said, all right, well, the problem came back, and the car was dying while we were driving, and I'd keep bump starting it, and we'd keep going. And so I called him. I said, I think we sent a text. And we said, get the recce car battery ready. Mm-hmm. And Jared got kind of mad. He's like, tell me what's wrong with the car. Why are you saying this? And I had a moment, and this is kind of important because rally really is a team sport, and you got to respect the jobs you gave to the men you gave them to. And I realized, I was like, yeah, it's not my job to tell Jared how to fix the car. Like, that wasn't my intention, but right there and then I said, all right, never again. I'm just going to tell them these guys what the problem is, and I'm going to let them do their job. This is why I brought them. I need their expertise. You guys got any input on that?
Well, we had a lot of struggle with that car, and that started there, really was coming to head at 100 Acre Wood. We found out, was it next rally? I think it was the next rally. Is when we actually figured out what it was. And, 100% it was on me when we built the car, plumbing up the fuel system wrong and way overloading the car. Basically, we were just creating a rich condition and overdriving what the computer was asking for fuel, just completely flooding it out. And that was what ended up being the issue. Wasn't until we got with the guys at TRF and was looking at the car that we really explained why it was doing it and what I messed up on. As soon as they started talking about it and we started looking at it, it made 100%. It made sense. It came back to the inexperience and the, straight back to that, you don't know what you don't know. As soon as somebody told me about how that system operated and what worked, made 100%, made sense. And as soon as we changed it, that issue was gone. We never have seen that issue come up again. So that part was good. Anybody else got anything on that one?
All right, so moving on from 100 Acre Wood, we get in touch with TRF, and we're going to Olympus now in Washington, and this is on the far side of the country for us. TRF basically did their arrive and drive program. They shipped my car out there. They shipped my recce car out there. They drove it out there personally, I should say. And then all I had to do was me and Dave and Jared, we just flew out. And we brought Father Bob with us. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
And we flew out to Olympus, and everything was taken care of for us. TRF, they do a fantastic job. And they helped us diagnose the car, and we figured out the fuel pump issue. There was one stage in that rally where right at the start it died because they gave it the quick fix, and it was 98% gone. But it was still possible it could happen here or there. And one of the places it happened was right as the countdown timer hit go. Mm-hmm. We died at the start of the stage. As I had mentioned earlier, this was the stage that we were testing at, and we were trying that rear brake technique, and we're still doing the wrong thing. And I kept coming back, and we kept moving the balance bar on the brakes more and more because I kept saying, I need more front brake, more front brake. I'm cranking the dial, I'm maxing out the dial, and we got to move it more. I am pouring on rear brake at this point. And eventually I just got kind of comfortable driving it like that. And because I was hitting the ruts, it was keeping the car from stepping out where I was testing the brakes. So I thought it was getting better, and it was totally a placebo effect. So I started driving the car better. And that's one of the things you got to be really, really careful about with setup changes as a driver is you totally can have placebo effects like that, and you might actually be making your situation worse. Anyway, I actually did some fantastic driving. We're basically operating on rear brake alone. That was our fastest speed factor of the year, and we DNF'd. So there's a few things about the DNF. I'll add in some clips here about that happening. But, you know, we had come into this turn. It was all tore up. It was loose. I was holding a nice slide into the turn. And then we hit that soft patch and the car just over-rotated. I kept it in the road, and we're facing the inside of the turn. I straighten out the wheel, and I go to back up, and as soon as I let off the brake, the front tires just drop into the ditch, and we get high-centered, basically, and we can't back out. And we just kind of decided, like, okay, yeah, we'll just wait for Sweep to pull us out, and then we'll rejoin the rally. Well, it was the last day of the rally, and there's no competitive re-entry on the last leg of the rally. So it resulted in a DNF. So that was, you know, we might have been able to dig ourselves out of that hole. Highly unlikely, though. That Jeep that pulled us out was giving it everything she had to get us out of that ditch. But, you know, there could have been things we could have tried and we just didn't. And this led to our DNF.
Well, my favorite part of that, though, was the car that came around the corner and was trying to let another car pass, and he backs up, and Nick's like, hook the rope to him, he's going to help us. And I'm like, what? And you're like, hook him up. And I run over there, and I put it on, and what was the car? It was a little car.
I can picture
Either
it in
way,
my head.
he gives us one, like, half yank, and it did nothing. We didn't get out of there, and he's like, get it off there, I need to go. So we unhook him and let him go. Well, when we did the non-competitive re-entry, you pulled up next to him and you were like, hey, thanks, man. Thanks for trying. And he goes, I didn't want to do that. No, you're welcome, man, or anything. He just looks at Nick. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, so he was actually getting passed by the driver behind him, and that corner was wide enough that he pulled over and stopped to let the car behind him go through. But he stopped behind us when we're sitting there waving our hand for a tow, and he was within reach of the tow rope. It looked like it was clear to us, but his co-driver was in the car, and she was like, no! So he was a great guy. We seen him at a few other rallies. Yeah. I'll see what I can find of that clip, but they were great. They were super cool about it.
Hey, thanks. I didn't want to do that.
I want to add in too, real quick here. That was the only DNF of the year.
Yeah.
That was as bad as things got. Is we stayed in the road. So we got back. We finally realized when they told us that we can't re-enter, but we found out we could do a non-competitive re-entry. So we managed to jump back in, and we did the power stage, and we finished the power stage. We crossed the finish line with all the other drivers. We just didn't snag any points. And then that was about the end of that. Ryan and Sam, they weren't there for that one. And then our next
It was
rally,
still definitely fun following along on Sneak Attack, though. It was kind of realizing that, oh, hey, I can actually really enjoyed, you know, paying attention to stage racing. It was paying attention all the times on that Sneak Attack was definitely fun through these two out west rallies that we didn't join on. But
well, and the Washington rally, we got a DNF, but it still didn't go perfectly smooth. We ended up snapping an axle and dropping a motor mount. Luckily, we had the recce car there. And we pulled a motor mount out of the other car, had spare axles, had all that stuff, but we cannibalized one car, and in a 30-minute service, changed axles and motor mounts along with a complete service. Got you back out too there. So, still had work to do, but got it done for you.
Yeah, you know, that was one of the coolest things about having the same make and model of car for the recce is that we can do things like that, you know. That was a big plus all season long, even though we didn't utilize it only a few times.
right? And so, moving on, our next rally was Oregon Trail Rally, and this was the start of the solution and my mental blocks. So heading into the next rally, it wasn't until at the very end of testing that TRF, and this is obviously in Oregon, so it's on that far coast, and Ryan and Sam aren't here on this one. And Jared, were you there on that one? No, Jared stayed home on that one too. But they finally figured out that I had been twisting my brake bias adjuster the wrong direction the entire time. But this was at the tail end of testing, and I didn't get a chance to play with it at all. They reset the balance bar back to the middle, and I ran like the stage twice just to get a feel for the car. And then we were racing that night. My confidence in the car was completely shot at that point, because that was the source of my DNF. That was why we didn't finish. It wasn't my training methods. It wasn't my driving technique. It was my car setup. And so without me having the time in testing to be able to play with the brake bias adjuster, I knew I was still running that rally with too much rear brake, and I made some adjustments to it, but I really didn't know how many ticks I could go would make that big of a difference, and then I might have started creating other problems. And so I drove that rally pretty slow, and a lot of people remember me being painfully slow at that rally, which is fair. I think I got a clip, which if I can find it, I'll probably load it up here. This is me coming into a turn, and you can just see my rear end wobbling all over the place because I got too much rear brake. And me and Dave even got in a little bit of an argument on that one. It wasn't that particular turn, but there was another turn, and he called the turn a little late, and then I slammed on the brakes, and I got like the wheel like locked, but the car's like staying straight because I got too much rear brake and I got to scrub the speed. And then at the end of the turn, like, I saved it and we pulled it through. And Dave was like, yes, that's how you do it.
That much speed is what I was after, not necessarily the technique. But now you know you can carry that much speed through a turn like that.
Right, and I'm over here, I was like, what are you talking about? That was like, I want to be smooth. That was not smooth. The G-forces were great. But
the speed was there, though, on accident.
Yeah. And so one of the things was on the stage that was the power stage at Oregon Trail. We ran that stage 3 times throughout the event, and I think that day.
Yeah.
And then on the third run, like, I gave it all I had, and I had like the exact same time as my second run. And that made me feel better because that showed that I did have consistency as a driver. My car wasn't set up right, and I had no confidence in it, and it was a super fast stage, and that was basically the end of that story. But now we know that I was setting up the brakes wrong. And then we had Southern Ohio Forest Rally, and Chris here is cool enough to come out to testing to help me get my car dialed in. And really, we didn't do too bad of a job on it ourselves that time. But Chris came out and he helped, and that really boosted my confidence because he's super knowledgeable about how to set up these Fiestas. And it really just gave me a big confidence boost in the car heading to that rally. And that rally, actually, we ended up taking our first podium. Now, to be fair, quite a few guys DNF'd to let that happen. But still, we took our first podium, and that was amazing. I had my family there. That was great. Chris here and Glenn Ray, they mooned us pretty good. We'll go ahead and run that clip.
Then a caution slowing, 6 left short into a 2 right minus. 2 right minus. It's them. Crest tidy 50, 3 left plus, opens 50.
So, yeah, that was a really good rally. That was a rally I volunteered at. I really enjoyed that one. Well, what was you guys are back at it now. What was your take about Southern Ohio Forest Rally?
I was gonna say, it forgot to mention on the 100 Acre Wood, it wasn't like we had exactly figured out everything that we were supposed to be doing yet. So to me, it was really eye opening at Sofer. We had Noah from TRF as a crew chief for that race, and it was kind of like oh, okay, here's all the things that we were supposed to be doing all along. So just kind of sitting back and watching the professionals work, it was a very good learning experience, and realizing like, oh, okay, yeah, while this is still fun, you know, we need to take this very seriously and make sure that you know, a single nut or bolt doesn't take us out of the rally. And that was also our first experience with fun weather of being super hot and then getting rained on the last service. So that made for a fun end. And then watching and just seeing everything come into place that on that day we had won the war of attrition and ended up in third. So that was real surprising and really cool.
Kind of to piggyback off what Ryan just said there, yeah, like he said, we changed stuff up going into Southern Ohio as far as how we were doing our service. A lot of that came about with the help of Thompson, TRF, between their support out west and the one event I went to out there. It was eye-opening to me to work with those guys. You know, it was that event for me was more learning than anything. Learned what we should be doing, how we should be doing it, more of what our setup and what it should look like in a service. 100% learning on my end, just being new at this. And it really opened up our eyes. And I feel like from there, the service side of things, the rest of the year went so much smoother and so much easier. We kind of, you know, like Ryan said, there was so much stuff we were overlooking. And it all changed after those West events, and things just started flowing so much smoother. Sofer was challenging for the crew the entire time. There was a lot of delays at Sofer, a lot of different weather. Like Ryan said, I mean, there was days it was chilly in the morning, it'd get up to 90, and before you know it, it's raining. It rained on us both days. The second day, I mean, we had high winds. There's some cool pictures, and I know Nick's got some. Hopefully he can put some in here. Our last service was on a tarp in the middle of a parking lot and pouring down rain with no cover. And literally just trying to do everything we can to keep you guys dry, to keep the car from steaming up. And it was a challenge. So it was a cool one.
Yeah. You know, for me, Sofer was the one where everything kind of started to click with us. And that came with a lot of help from TRF. Sofer was the one where we started to learn a little process, and started to get our pit ritual down. You know, when that car comes in, we start to learn what we need to do and what we need to look at. Like Jared said, the weather was interesting. It seems like it wanted to rain on the service times, and it was pretty sunny and clear the rest of the day, so that was fun. But yeah, everything started to click at Sofer, you know. So we started to get our processes down, and it was a good rally. Felt like it was a good learning experience on that one.
Also for Sofer, before you start navigating, if you feel like you're starting to head off in the middle of nowhere, especially with an RV, stop and turn around. There was a few times where I'm like, Sam, you think we're good? Remember getting out, looking at a low bridge just to make sure we didn't smoke the AC unit on top of the camper. But it was a good time, and looking back, it was like, I feel like we should have been heading back into town, and we should have just disregarded GPS. So,
yeah, we definitely went down some tight roads in that RV. Yeah, so, and I still think that bridge sign was wrong. That had to be taller than 11 foot. So, or whatever.
Oh, definitely.
All right, so okay, so heading into Ojibwe Forest Rally, we sent the car back to TRF. We had some ergonomic issues with the car that were causing me problems as a driver. There was just, we didn't know what we didn't know, right, Jared?
Yep.
And so, yes. So we ended up getting they fixed a lot of the ergonomics for me. We finally got the interior of the car painted, and then we got the car vinyl wrapped, and it was looking good.
Well, Nick, let me add something there too, real quick. So one of the things with building the car, 100% my call as far as not painting the interior. Being new to all this, I didn't want to paint it and then have to go make a bunch of changes with a painted interior and painted cage. looking back on it, don't know if that was necessarily the right thing to do. If we had to do it all over again, I probably would have got it painted right off the bat, but that's hindsight. Especially with now knowing if I did do it again, I feel like we'd be a lot closer right off the bat than what we were this time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if we did this all again, there's a lot of mistakes we would avoid, so yeah. I mean, honestly though, I think the car is pretty good the way you built it. It wasn't 100%, but hey man, you did a good job for having never built a rally car before. You know what I mean?
Not even about that. It's just about placement and ergonomics and learning things, looking at other guys' cars and talking with guys that have built them. Stuff that I didn't think of or didn't know. Like I said, it's one of those things you learn as you go, and that was part of the reason we didn't paint it, which technically worked out for us. They were able to make some of those changes and then, paint the car, and we haven't had to touch it really since. So we haven't messed up any of the interior paint or anything like that. So that helped out a lot.
Yeah, I feel like the car's been in a constant state of improvement, this entire season. So every event I go to, the car gets better and better.
All right. Yeah, we got the car. It's looking good. We're looking at the points, and we're more than halfway through the season at this point.
It's all fancy looking like it is here.
Brand new wrap.
Yep. And, I'm over there and I'm calculating the points and I'm looking at what we got to do. And Chris here was skipping this rally, so, it was like we're all going to get a little extra points just because he's not there. And, and we're racing against the Tabors, and these guys were holding me off the podium all year. And I was like, if I could just get my things together, I know I could run a challenge for those Tabor guys. And that was my thoughts going into it. And I'm talking with Dave about it a lot, and we're talking about actual driving techniques and stuff. And there was a point, it was either heading into this rally or during this rally, where you said to me, Nick, I have 100% faith that you will get us on that podium by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was like, I don't know, Dave, but you know what? He had more faith in me than I did. So and we did. We pulled it off. But so back to Ojibwe, you want to talk about our little detour on Recce?
So this whole first season, I have had all sorts of problems and issues with directions. From some of it simple mistakes, some of it big mistakes. One of it cost us quite a bit of time. But Recce is also challenging in its own ways because you can't go backwards down any route that is part of a route. You're not allowed to go backwards down it. So we're out there in the middle of these stages, and you have to make sure you're not going backwards. You have to make sure that it makes sense to get you to the next part. And sometimes when you're using the off-road maps and stuff, you may miss that this is not really a road. It's more like a trail or a driveway. And it had just started storming, and I think I changed in the middle of Recce which way we were going because we're almost out of gas or something. So I said, we're going to hit this one, then we're going to go to this gas station. Well, I took us down this trail, and it's a trail. It's not a road.
It looked like a road on the maps.
It divides into two, and my maps is telling me to go to the right. And Nick looks at it, and he goes, Dave, I've watched enough movies and read enough books. That's not the way to go. Because it was like split. And the one trail was really dark and nasty looking. And the trail to the left was all bright and sunshiny and nice. And I was like, no, maps is saying go to the right. And you're like, Dave, I'm telling you, there's nothing good down there. And I'm like, Nick, maps says
it was like a tunnel
go.
through the trees, downhill and super rocky. And
So
a bright, shiny, sunny path over here.
So we go to the right, like I told him to do, and we made it maybe half to 3/4 of a mile down it, and then there's the fence. And this fence is like straight out of a Wicked Witch horror story gate.
There's
a picture of it.
Gate. We have a picture of the gate. We'll upload that now so you
but
guys
there
can
was
see
like
it.
there was like all sorts of witchcraft stuff on this gate and rainbow stuff. Like we said it was a gay witch who probably lived there.
It was lesbians.
Lesbians. And
Which I'm terribly sorry if that's your home and you're seeing this video, but that is creepy.
and so we had to turn around and then get back out onto the main roads.
There was like
and-
dolls on the fence.
Oh, it was a full creepy gate.
We turned right back around, and we didn't care what the delay was after that. But so, what'd you say afterwards? After all the events and everything we went through, you came closer to killing us than I did.
Yeah, on that event, I came a lot closer to getting us killed than you ever did.
That's right. I called that rally the bear, the witch, and the quicksand. So getting to the quicksand part of it, we ended up snagging a couple flats that rally. Oh, but before I get to that, we got lost heading to the first stage.
That was the part that I was. Sometimes it costs you a lot of time. So,
Yeah. So-
there was. It was in an open field where our start was, and there's a fueling station, and I can't see it, but there's a gate over here, and in the instructions it says go through the gate, and there's a gate straight in front of us. I was, I'll say, distracted for a minute because of somebody else, not you. And
We weren't watching the other drivers and seeing what direction they were going.
And so I'm looking in the notes, it says go through the gate. So we go through the gate, and then none of the instructions make sense. So I'm like, shit, get us back out of here. And it takes you back out into the service area. And I'm like, I don't know, get out here, that's the highway. And this says turn left. And you're like, are you sure it says turn left? And I'm like, I'm telling you, it says turn left. And we're going down the highway, and I get a phone call, and it's something I don't recognize, so I ignore it. And I'm still trying to figure out these notes because something isn't adding up. But I picked a GPS point from the notes, and it was telling me to go this way because I was already lost. And the GPS points are supposed to get you to an intersection, and it took us to this highway and a road. So I'm like, yeah, go this way. Well, eventually I realize what happened because I throw in another GPS point, and I look up at our rally safe computer, and it says, you're going turn around, going the wrong way. And I'm like, oh shit, I've never seen that before. So Nick turns it around, and then I get the right GPS. I figure out what's going on. We go back past service, and we were 10 miles out, maybe 8 miles out, something. It was quite a ways.
We went way too far out.
And so I'm like, Nick, you got to haul ass. We're going to be late. Like, this is going to cost us big. And Nick's like, you know the rules. I can't go fast. I'm like, you really think that they care? Nobody knows how fast you're going.
I was pushing it as far as I knew the rule book would allow.
And we get there, and they're like, we almost didn't let you run the stage. And we end up with like a 18-minute lateness, but it's 10 seconds per, so that's 180 seconds, 3 minutes penalty time added to our overall time. And so when we get back to service, I go to argue it with the ARA. I'm like, that isn't fair. I used your coordinates
In the
and they
route
were
book.
wrong. And I find the lead guys, they're all in this trailer and all this computer stuff, and they're like, oh, you're 407? Oh, and the lead guy is like, dude, we were watching your speed like a hawk. We were waiting for you to go too fast. We knew what had happened. You didn't answer our phone call. I was like, that was you guys? And they're like, yeah, we tried to tell you you're going the wrong way. And I argued it with him, and he's like, look, we understand that it was the wrong coordinates. We see it now. But the only way that you're going to get your time back is if you actually take this up and take it into the higher courts, basically, the ARA. And they're not going to let that go, because then if any of our points on our decimal points of our coordinates are off ever, somebody's going to use that against us, and they're not going to let that happen. So you guys will lose your case. You'll lose out all this other stuff. So you can either let it go and take your hit, or you can try fighting it, and it's not going to work.
Well, that, and they said if they do a deeper inspection, they could hit us with a couple extra penalties on
All
top of
that they
So
wanted.
they said, trust me, guys, drop it. And
But we find out later that that was one of the reasons that Mark Tabor decided not to drop out of that race, even though his turbo was acting up, was since we didn't get the penalty taken off, he knew he still had a shot at beating us in that race because of those penalties.
Right.
But we find that out later that was literally one of the reasons he said, I stayed in the race, is because they couldn't get those minutes taken off.
So, sounds like it was terrible, but this turned out to actually be a blessing in disguise. So, as Dave was making the wrong calls, I still have that lesson that I mentioned earlier that, like, you know, I got to let my crew do their job. It's not my job to tell them how to do their job, okay? That kind of a thing. And we're at that intersection leaving the service area, and I said, the route book says to turn right, because I could see the route book in his lap. And I said, the route book says to turn right here, Dave. He's like, just turn left, Nick. Mm-hmm. And so I turned left. I was like, all right, it's not my job. So this was, points-wise, this ended up being quite detrimental for us. But because the pressure was off, because we had already goofed up that bad, I was actually able to work that rally on rebuilding my confidence in the car. Because we weren't fixing that time penalty. And so I actually got to just relax behind the wheel and push my comfort zone to its limits. Whereas before I was pushing over my limits to try and make up for things. And that's never a good idea, because as soon as you go over your limits, your adrenaline takes over and you don't learn a thing. So because of that, I was able to dial it back. I was still pushing myself, but I was staying inside of my comfort zone. I was going all the way out to the limits of my comfort zone, but not exceeding it. And then I was able to grow my comfort zone. And this turned out to be, like I said, it was a blessing in disguise. I got to turn around my confidence in the car at that rally. And then later we had issues with flats. To make it brief, Dave told me to drive out the stage, and we shouldn't have driven out the stage. We lost our front brakes, and then on the next stage, we're getting past. I tried to pull over when the edge of the road gave out, and we ended up getting pretty hard stuck. We're on the edge of a cliff, and we ended up getting pulled out by sweep, but it wasn't the final leg of the rally, so we got to re-enter, and we finished that rally, and I really got to build some confidence in the car. And what was your guys's? You got anything to add about Ojibwe?
Biggest thing on Ojibwe to me was, one of the first ones, some more major repair. Luckily, like you were talking about, pulled out by sweep. We weren't in a time crunch at that point. We had one more day of rally, so we knew we had to get it done, get it right, get it back drivable for you, which we did overnight. So it was a fix, not a lot of pressure fix on our end. I don't feel like on that one. That was kind of the big one there. Nothing too crazy that I remember otherwise on Ojibwe. What about you guys?
Yeah, I don't remember anything too crazy about Ojibwe. I mean, we had some issues with the car, of course, but we weren't in a time crunch though on them either, so we were just able to get the car up and going overnight, and get you guys back out there. Yeah, and like you said, the pressure was off a little bit, and we just took it easy and did some racing. Yeah, Ojibwe, I think it went pretty good, overall.
Awesome. Ryan?
I don't really got anything.
You had a smoker.
Well, yeah, I guess I did realize that there's a lot more to seems to be than providing hospitality, I guess. So I remember thinking, bought like 2 bags of fries or bought one or something. It's like, I don't want to buy too much, and then I dump them out on the tray and go, well, I think we're gonna have some hungry people today. So
yeah, that smoker was pretty welcome though. That thing was good.
For sure. Okay, so then moving on to Tennessee. Tennessee was a fun rally. So I'm building my confidence back in the car. I'm playing with the settings. I'm trying to understand suspension. I got an understanding of the basics, and I tweak it quite a bit, and I actually get the desired results on the test stage. But what had ended up happening is I had added a lot softer rebound in the front and a lot stiffer rebound in the rear. So I didn't touch the rear, but I kept softening up the front. And this creates oversteer in the car when they're unbalanced like that. So we get the car all dialed in. I'm feeling really confident. We go out and we hit our first stage, and I am oversteering like crazy into the first couple corners. And I crank up the front brake. I'm thinking, I was like, I got too much rear brake from the practice stage. That wasn't the case. It was, well, I'm sure that was part of it, but really it was probably my bad suspension setup. And then later we're doing the spectator specials, and it's on tarmac, and I turn my front brake up even more because I'm like, yeah, you can get away with a little extra front brake on tarmac. And I ended up with just way too much front brake on those stages. They were a lot of fun though. It was just a circle track where we got to hit a jump, and sometimes we did a loop around the inside of the track and then back out. But something else pretty entertaining happened.
You're just talking about the door, right?
Yes. Well, we'll skip over the other part.
Well, first off, at this point, we had gotten comm headsets for being able to talk and listen to music and everything else. Well, and our helmets worked with it too. So I had my phone playing pump up music. And right, like as the countdown, we're under 30 seconds, I get a phone call and I have this really loud alarm because I'm always in loud places.
I should add that it's a circle track. We didn't need pace notes for it.
And so somebody calls right in the middle, like right as we're getting ready to go. Well, I grabbed the phone and I had to open my door to get it.
Max.
And the notebook slides down in my pouch. And so when I closed the door, it didn't close at all. And I didn't know this because I'm hurry mode, pay attention, and we take off. And the very first thing you're supposed to do is a hairpin left. And Nick hairpin lefts, and my door goes wham, wide open. And then, of course, it's a long straightaway. My door's wide open. I'm like, Nick. And you're like, what? And you're trying to slam it closed. And
I'm turning the car because it was making the door come in a little bit. And Dave can almost reach the knob or the strap or
full
something.
Harness.
He's strapped into the back of his seat.
And the door's just flying. The crowd's going crazy. And
the drone's flying overhead.
And eventually he does it enough, and I can get just enough of the door that I'm able to slam it closed, and we're able to finish it. But when it's a 30-second section, I added probably 10 seconds to it. That was terrible time.
At least. I think it was about 15 total. Then I went a little too hard finishing that stage because, we're both beat red in the face at this point, kind of embarrassed because we did it in front of a huge crowd and everything. I could not stop laughing the rest of the rally.
I think it did help that the night before, though, they did reverse order start, and you were the first car to really hit the jumps on the track.
Yeah.
So the crowd went wild over that. Then I think mine just took away from your coolness after that.
Well,
just a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think Tippmann Racing nerfed some fans that night. First you guys going hard at the jumps, and the door's a bit of a mishap. I mean, the crowd likes that stuff, and you guys drove pretty hard after that too.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And then I said it. Well, and I was the first one to hit the jump hard too.
Yeah.
And there's even a clip out there, Pastrana being impressed by me hitting the jump that hard. But I realized I didn't have the best reputation as a driver. So all the drivers that followed me, like, we can't let Tippmann show us up. So it made for a pretty wild spectator event, for sure.
Oh
yeah. There were some other interesting things that happened in that rally. One of them was Chris here. He won his championship, and we could talk a little bit about that. Did you guys have anything to add about Tennessee?
It was hot.
It was hot.
So that Tennessee,
overheating in the car.
Getting to see that the super special and seeing you jump. It's always cool to get to see the cars running. It's just like a little bit nervous until you land and going, okay, we don't have to do much to the car tonight.
I specifically remember, I can't remember if it was, I think it was the second night. We were all watching it, and you aired it out pretty good on that backstretch jump after the infield, and came down a little hard. And I think, Sam, I think it was you goes, man, we got to look that thing over. I said, nah, it's built for that. And sure enough, I don't think we had any damage from it. It didn't sound great, but it didn't hurt nothing.
Right, and I have a funny clip of me predicting Jared's reaction to that landing. We'll throw that in as well.
And jump. And one last jump. Ooh. All right. Now slow out to the exit.
Jared's not going to be happy about that one.
Nope. All the way out the exit.
Oh, buddy.
He's pointing us over there to the red stop.
Your door came open.
It's the stupid pouch in there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a fun event. We were heading into the last couple stages. One, we're on transit, and we run into Chris Sear on the side of the road, and he is in straight up panic mode. He's worried his car is on its last leg, and he's not going to be able to finish. And he asked us, so we'll give him a tow if we find him on the side of the road. The guy was great to me, and we weren't in the running for any kind of a championship, and so I was like, of course, you got it, man. And he's like, thank you. And he went out there, and I think that just gave him the confidence boost he needed to go out there and claim the championship, because not only did he finish, but he also took the power stage and brought his car home. And it was super cool, but me and Dave were back there. We're coming around every corner, like, is he there yet? I said we were bear hunting.
Well, we went past his hood on the side of the road first.
Yeah. We're like,
wait, what? What is happening?
which rally was it when you guys brought me some refreshing ice water?
Yeah, I think that was Tennessee that we did that.
Yeah. Yeah, so we wanted to refill our cold suits, but it was just a refuel. And we were not allowed to do anything to the car at a refuel besides put fuel in the car. We're allowed to get something to drink from the crew. That was okay. So they thought they'd be funny. Sam, do you want to tell this one?
So I'll tell the story since so we couldn't refill your cold suits, but we could give you guys some refreshing beverages. And there was a Dollar General around the corner from the fuel stop, so we went down there and we got some real big flowered tumblers. We filled them up to the brim with ice water and handed them to you guys. And I don't know if you drank the ice water. I don't know if what you did with that ice water, but yeah, we were able to hand that to you guys and stay within the rules of the IRA.
So that was fun. Tennessee, I was definitely, after I had cranked up my front brake, I was driving with understeer the entire time, and it was a super technical rally. Luckily, my driving technique, I love to abuse understeer to help me drive. There's a method in which you can do that, and I can go into more detail on that at another time. But we still weren't very fast. And Chris got to claim his championship, and Chris and Glenn, they were so helpful to me and Dave throughout the entire year. Even though we were competitors, like if we ever needed some advice on setting up the car or even help setting up the car personally, like they were there to help us. Glenn was super helpful with any advice he could give us on the pace notes. And those guys were just awesome, and they were true sportsmen the whole way through. And I couldn't be happier that they got their championship. And, that was great for them. So we're heading into LSPR now, Lake Superior Performance Rally. And this rally is traditionally muddy, but sometimes snow. But it was bright and sunny, and you really couldn't have asked for a better rally to finish off the year. It was completely gorgeous. I got a better handle on my suspension now. I've basically overcome my issues with the setup on the car. So we go and we make our pace notes, and something we had been doing all year was we were dialing back, or on our first pass, if the turn was like a 2+, and then on their second pass on recce, it was a 3-, we kept it 2+, because, that's going to get us through the turn, and safety was a priority, especially getting started, because we knew we didn't know. So, trying to keep us out of danger. But this rally, we pulled out all the stops, and if it was a 2+ and second pass was 3-, we went with 3-. You were particularly enjoying that during video recce when we kept turning numbers up, and you're like, yeah,
Let's go fast.
yeah, it's our last rally of the year, and we're in a situation where we're in fourth, and the only way we can take third is if the guy in third place DNFs and we get a minimum of 17 points. That means we either had to take second place or third place plus power stage. So I was aware of this coming into it. At the same time, I had also been becoming increasingly aware of the idea that my car was slower than the other cars. When me and Jared built the thing, a lot of the advice I was seeing and looking at American Rally in general, I didn't think the competition was going to be that steep. And I seen a lot of advice, saying like, yeah, stock power on the cars, all you need a podium. And that was true. But when you're going for the national title, those guys are squeezing everything they can out of those cars for the national within the rule books. And so there was a lot of decisions me and Jared made when we were building the car, where if there was a choice between saving weight and durability, we went with durability. I was like, I don't think a few pounds is going to make a big difference. Well, we were grossly overweight. We're at probably 300 pounds heavier than, say, Chris Sears' car. And after TRF helped us out over the summer, they probably took 150, 200 pounds out of the car. And so that helped out quite a bit, but we were still underpowered compared to what these other guys, I assume they were running in their cars. Now, if you wanted to start off and you're running regionals, yeah, stock power, not an issue. You're going to run into more of like what I was expecting, but we were the dummies that jumped straight into national. And so this rally ended up being really flat out and sandy. Super sandy, and sand just robs you of what little power we already had. And that became very apparent during this rally. But we were pulling out all the stops. We're going as fast as we can. We met a lot of rocks, and they weren't very nice to us.
Big rocks.
And so we ended up with quite a few flats. Do any of you guys want to jump in at this point and say anything about that?
Yeah, so LSPR, I really felt like we got to go to work as a crew on that one. We had some pretty serious issues with the car, and we had some time crunches that we had to get the stuff done in. And I remember that last pit before you went to that power stage, you came in with 2 flats, and we had some suspension issues on top of that. And I don't remember how long that service interval was, but we spent every single bit of that working on the car, and we ran over to fuel to get you guys fueled up, and things were clicking at that point. I think at some point, maybe next season, we're going to look back and think things weren't clicking then, but that's just the way the progression has been. But yeah, LSPR was pretty wild. You guys drove great, and it was a challenge to get that car back out there. Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, we got a flat on the very first stage, and it didn't show itself until after we got off the stage. And so, so that was our first flat. And then maybe I slowed down a little bit after that. It kind of looks like that in the stats. And then coming into the second day, I had a plan to deal with the rocks, with the tire pressures and letting them get a little hotter and not bleeding them off between the stages, because it was the end of the first stage was super rocky and the beginning of the next stage was super rocky. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to keep my tires hot during that time and keep them overinflated to help deflect those rocks. But we still ended up getting a double puncture there. And I have a whole video on this. It shows you everything that happened there. So I won't bother pulling up any clips here. If you want to check that out, it's my LSPR Clip Show 2025. And then, there was no reason for it to happen. But then the guy who was in third DNF'd. They had an easy rally. All they had to do was finish. And unfortunately, his car caught fire. And I remember being at the start of that stage because they didn't let us onto the stage yet. And we don't know who it is that DNF'd, and we're trying to ask the marshals, do you know who it was? And they wouldn't tell us, or they didn't know. And then, I'm watching the ambulance go down the stage, and I'm over there, and I'm thinking to myself, I was like, not like this.
Yeah, this isn't good.
It was not cool. We weren't excited about this. But then, the calls came through and everybody's safe. And the car caught fire and they were okay. And we were grateful for that. I mean, really, we didn't want that to happen. So, But now, due to all of our flats, we ended up with a lot of time penalties. And half the class DNF'd at that point.
Yep.
And so despite all of our time penalties, we're sitting in third. And that stage is a transit stage. And then we got one more stage and then power stage. So our entire season comes down to a single stage.
Because finishing third, there was no way to place second unless the other guy DNFs. And because of all the flats, there was so much time between us and second.
We couldn't make up the
We were not going to make it to second. So you had to get the power stage plus third.
Right. And
be
we
able to
already
podium for
had
the
third
year.
secured, and there was nothing we could do about our standing. So we took it easy on the next stage. So go ahead.
I was going to say, coming in, we had our last service of the day. There was one more refuel, but we had our last service of the day before you guys went out to the power stage also. And those last flats really did a number on the car. In that service, we ended up changing outer tie rod, inner tie rod, right front brake rotor, right front brake caliper. Ryan reattached the quarter panel and the bumper. Basically,
No idea how that survived.
there was nothing that was, as far as that front corner and the body work, it was purely held on by bare bond and zip ties.
Probably about 100 rivets, it seemed like.
Yeah, but it got, and a new inner fender. I forgot about the inner fender too. But it also put back on, and brakes rebled, and full service on top of it as far as checking all the rest of the car out and getting you guys out in a very short amount of time. It was one of those that kind of, the whole year I'd kind of preached about, I want spare parts. I want to have stuff readily available to us because there will come a point where we need it. And that rally, it really became apparent because we had everything we needed to do that amount of work in that amount of time. It really helped and shone through there. And then it helped, I believe it was, our 8th rally of the season. We had a good understanding of how we each worked together and what we were doing with the car at that point. So it made it to where we could do that. Looking back on it, if it would have been Sno Drift and we had that same amount of repair to do in the same amount of time, I'm about 99% sure you wouldn't have made it out of the pits.
I think my favorite part was that Jared was bleeding the rotor on the passenger side after replacing the drivers. He's bleeding that rotor, and you're like, "Oh yeah, Jared, the car's been pulling to the right." And Jared goes, "Well, there ain't much we can do about that, right?" Oh, as he's looking at the parts. And he goes, "We need the parts. We got to do this."
You know what? That's a good point. So that was one of the biggest lessons we had to learn in rally coming into this, and it truly is a team sport. And you know, every member of that team's got to be doing their job. And when you're watching rally from the outside, there's all this focus on the driver. But I mean, there is an entire team. It's like watching a football game and only paying attention to the quarterback. I mean, that quarterback can't do what he does without everyone around him. And, you know, and I'm probably not even the quarterback in this scenario. I'm probably the receiver, to be honest. But these guys really pulled out their A game for that service. And I was like, this was a big part of what made me happy about all this, was they got their moment. They got their moment to shine. They not only had one heck of a service that they pulled off, but they did it at a critical moment and made it happen. And just big thanks to you guys. I mean, like, really, you guys rocked it. And I think I got the best crew ever, and I'm really excited to do this next year with you guys. And, you know, Dave, you had your moment too. And, like, you know, I said everybody had this moment. I even said the skid plate has its moment. It's your time to shine, skid plate.
Well, so we had the power stage was a repeat of the stage you had just finished, but you took it slow because of the tires.
We had no front brakes the first time we hit that stage.
No, I didn't think that one was part of the no brakes, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
The first time we hit it, we had no brakes and the steering was crooked.
So it was a lot slower than after service.
Which I always got to point out, Tafik saved our bacon there because we were out of spares with the second flat. And Tafik luckily he was another driver that came through, and I flagged him down. He's driving the same car as I am, and he gave us his spare. And then we were able to limp that through our first run of what was later the power stage and get back to service. And then I gave him the tire back, and I still owe him a drink for that. Tafik, don't let me forget. So we're heading into the power stage. I mean, it's psych up time. Like, we're ready. Dave gets his speech ready. You know, I'm telling myself little mental bits that I know to help me drive better. And, you know, it's a wide open stage and it's super sandy. And we just sent it with everything that car had. And, you know, I had very, very few mistakes in that stage. And we did it. And we took the power stage. And we took third for that event. And we took third for the year in class. And, you know, that was our goals for the year. And so that was fantastic. So that was the end of our season. I just want to do a little recap here to finish up. You know, I would like to talk about like some of the things that we would have done different. You know, Sam kind of mentioned this earlier that, you know, there'd be a lot of things that we would have done different starting our first year. First for me was that initial shakedown of the car. I felt like I lost half a season because we didn't shake down our car. And that was a lot of money. You know, and speaking of which, that's also not the smartest thing is to jump straight into a national circuit. It would have been better if we ran a couple regional events and figured this stuff out before we attacked the national circuit. So, like, there's a good reason for going to do that because you don't know what you don't know. That seems to be the theme. Thanks, Jared. And, you know, just that first shakedown could have saved us a lot of heartache. And, but, you know, we didn't even really know how to shake down the car. So, you know, I didn't even know how to figure out what's too much. How do you figure out the brakes? We didn't know that stuff coming into it. And so that's one thing. Another thing that was a big shock to all of us was how much of a time commitment rally actually is. When we first made this plan, we're like, oh yeah, it's like 2-3 days of the weekend, tops, you know, like once a month. Like, yeah, I can take 3 days off of work, especially if most of it's over the weekend. Mm-hmm. No, it is a full week. Like, you need a full week because you need time to travel. You got to show up for testing. You got to show up for recce. you got your days of events, you need a day to travel back. Like you end up basically spending a full week for these events. And that gets really difficult to do. Go ahead.
Tuesday through Sunday, usually.
Yeah, usually. And that's not counting travel days. So, it's a big time commitment. And just on my end, like as a driver, there's so much you have to do between, logistics, getting your crew there, finding out who your crew is. You got to pay your crew from the last event. You got to find lodging. There's all the little details you have to go over with your car builder about getting the car repaired if you're not doing it yourself. And then, obviously there's huge budget involved in all that as well. But like what looked like a weekend, a month, a couple times a year turned into a couple months out of the year. And then like the time in between just training in the simulator, I spent hours and hours and hours, and then editing YouTube videos like I'm going to have to do with this one here. It ends up eating a lot of your time up, and it ended up eating up a lot of everybody's time here. And so,
I know.
yeah, so if you guys want to jump in, there's something that you found that you would have wanted to do different, or anything you wanted to add on to what I was talking about.
Like, I'll just piggyback off what you said real quick there. As the car builder and the crew chief, I was doing the turnaround. Most of the events, anytime TRF didn't have it, I was doing the turnover for the car in between events. Obviously, every car's different. Our car this year was basically, the easiest way to put it is like an entry-level rally car. Ours was a little more sophisticated than it had to be, but it wasn't insane by any means. So the more you do, the nicer the stuff, the more maintenance there is. Our car in between events, I bet I had every bit of 40 to 50 hours in the car, each event, just turning it over for the next one. And that was without really repairing anything. That's just the basic maintenance, checking everything out, greasing, redoing the suspension, making sure the car was right and ready to go. And that doesn't even include the time of, cleanup in the trailer, making sure our parts are back up to where we need them to be. The logistics, the parts side of it, that's not even included in that. So like you're saying, the time constraint, the time commitment is a lot bigger than what you may realize. We keep talking about TRF, and Ryan Thompson told us this. Pre-season, me and Nick were on a phone call with Ryan, and he was talking to us about it. And, he warned us. And me and Nick, we talked after our conversation with Ryan, and we're like, I don't think it's going to be that bad. Boy, was he right. The amount of time it takes to do this is way more than any of us, I think.
All right. Sam, Ryan, anybody?
Yeah, you guys, spend a little more time than I did on it, but it takes a lot of work, to turn a car over between those races. I know that, to do the things the right way, to make sure everything's safe and properly done. I mean, that's a time commitment. There's time, in all this, but it's good time. What better pursuit of time than going fast, right? Yeah.
Yeah, on that note, I was cracking up a little bit at the seams there, trying to keep all this together. Like, and I'm sure you guys probably saw some of that too. And I was also under a lot of pressure to perform well because, these guys got to take their time off of work to come help me. And if I'm not producing results, that becomes harder and harder to convince your loved ones, your employer, that you need this time off to help a middle of the pack driver. I mean, so I was kind of scared about losing my support through there. It's not that, these guys are super committed, but that don't mean that the people around them are. They need their own support system too to actually make this all happen. So it gets difficult. Ryan, did you have anything?
Yeah, it's just by the time the end of the season came on, it certainly ended on a very, very high note. And it was kind of good to be done for a few months, but already looking forward to Sno Drift and hoping that it'll go a little bit smoother this year, knowing what we need to do now.
Yep, and that's true too. We're going to be familiar with the areas, and we're going to be familiar like where we enter service at.
Well, those
And
were
just little things like that, that's going to be a huge advantage coming to us in the next year. I actually spent probably more time as a rookie driver learning how to set up my car than most drivers ever do in their entire career. So, a lot of these things that look like they were detrimental to us at the time are just going to make us stronger drivers. And it's always going to be a challenge. And as Ryan Thompson in his wise wisdom likes to say, if you got to learn to love the struggle, because that's what rally is. So if you can't deal with that, you're never going to have fun rally racing. All right, if you guys could, let's start with Dave. If there was one thing that you would have done different in our first year, what would it be?
learn KMZ files a lot sooner.
Did you get that figured out?
Mostly.
And that's the map data that they provide prior to an event. So that could be really helpful for co-drivers to know. Jared, one thing you would have done different?
Probably start on the car about a month before we did.
Fair enough. Sam?
If anything could be different, I would say I want to know what I know now going into last season. But hey, we can do that. We can do that with the next season, though.
Well, was there something in particular, like the way service flowed, the way you guys organize jobs, anything like that?
Yeah, a lot of that. So the service flow, and then just having checklists and like the way we nut and bolt the car, just coming down with like a routine, something quick and something efficient that gives us a good overview. Just the more experience you get, the more smoothly it seems to flow. And yeah, but basically that, just more experience, more organization, more flow, and that's just stuff you pick up with time. So.
Ryan, is there something you'd have done different?
Yeah, I was just gonna say for service assignments, just kind of picking what side you're supposed to be working on, whether it be front, passenger side, driver side, or rear, and just stick with that just to make sure nothing's missed. And then the other thing too is I felt like I was annoying Jared by the end of the year, going, "All right, where we go today? What time is it? And this and everything." So that's one thing I'm going to work on for next year is making sure that I've got my own notes, or just remember to keep looking in the service packet instead of bugging the crew chief all the time on, what time we got to leave, where are we going. The logistics and timing is a big thing that I feel like it took almost a year to start to realize that that's something that need to put a little bit more effort into this next year.
Awesome. All right, so we're just going to do a little wrap up now. The Team O'Neill method and all the advice they have on their YouTube channel, I really listen to that kind of thing. And they have their crawl, walk, run method. And, they do a great job teaching you there at the school. But you got to be able to take those lessons and keep practicing them somehow. That's where I adopted the simulator. There is no way I can really practice rally in my area. You don't want to be going on public roads. That's just a recipe for disaster. And, there just even like little rally events or just that you might have in your area, like check the SCCA. Might have had too many C's in there, but the SCCA, and check out those events. See if you can find time to get real seat time in the car. That's the best thing for you. I really have nothing like that in my area. We live in a very flat county. It's a very large county for this side of the Mississippi. Might be the largest actually. And every gravel road was chip and sealed a long time ago. So public roads really aren't even an option, even if I did want to go that far, which again is a bad idea. Don't do it. You know, but they teach you a lot of really good things up there. And I like the way one of their instructors said it. When you're getting out there and you get on the rally stage, you let the speed find you. Don't go looking for speed. Let the speed find you. And that was my bit about staying inside of your comfort zone and just trying to grow your comfort zone. Second you go outside of it, you're cooked. And even if you survive it, you're not going to learn anything because your adrenaline was through the roof. Starting in a front-wheel drive car. I think this is a really smart way to go because with a front-wheel drive, if things go south going into a corner, you can always throttle out. Like, maybe you can't always, but you always have that option available to you. If you come into a corner too hot in a rear-wheel drive car, you can rotate it, you can try and slow it down, but you best be praying because if you came in too hot, you're kind of cooked. If you come in too hot in a front-wheel drive, you can over-rotate the car and you can get on that gas and you might be able to pull it out of that corner. You just always have that recovery option available to you. I think that's really important. Learning to drive a slow car fast. You learn so much about how to make that car faster to compete that if you carry those techniques into the faster car, you're going to be way better off. Because let me tell you, I have an all-wheel drive car. That hides so many mistakes you're actually making. But you wouldn't even know they were mistakes unless you had spent the time with a two-wheel drive car and a slow two-wheel drive car in particular and learned how to drive that fast. That's a really important method. And when it comes to simulator training, there's a way to do it right and there's a way to do it wrong, and it's a very fine line. And I'm probably going to make a video series coming out soon doing a deep dive into how I sim trained and what worked for me to try and help you guys get the same benefits that I got from it. And I'm willing to share all my information. Like, I use the same pace notes from the simulator in my real car. I would tape up my simulator wheel from where I had my marks at, and I would pop that simulator wheel off and go and put it in the recce car. And that's how I get my tape marks for where I know how to turn the wheel in, or how steep the radius is on any given turn and what gear I need to be in. That's all straight from the simulator. It is possible to get good, valid training out of the simulator, but that's only if you know what proper technique is. So I highly encourage you guys to participate in a rally school if you want to go racing. And like I said, I'm going to do a deep dive. I'm going to go into why I use the sim that I use, the rig, the software, all of that, why I have problems with other programs out there, other games that they'll tell you on their surface they're supposed to be a simcade, and that's not an accurate simulator. They're admitting it when they sell you the game. And I can explain a lot of this, and I can go into a lot of detail. So look forward to that coming out in the next couple of months. And then just to cap off 2026, I'm just going to state my goals, and we'll get you guys' feedback on that, and we'll probably call this a video here. But 2026 is going to be a learning year for me more than anything. My goals for 2025 was to get on the podium. And we did that. And 2026, we're moving up a class. We're always, when we can, we're going to move up a class. But for me, the barrier this year isn't getting on the podium. The barrier for me is making sure I learn, because we're introducing a whole lot of new systems. We're moving to the Motec, and we're putting in the sequential from Sedev, and we're going to crank out the power on this car. And I got a lot to learn this year. And so for me, moving on from the open two-wheel drive class into a four-wheel drive car isn't going to be dependent upon me getting a podium. Because we got some plans, and hopefully they come through. I'm not going to spoil anything yet in case it doesn't happen. But we got some plans that's going to make things pretty interesting for 2027. So that's kind of my goals for this year is, we're going to give it our best. But the podium isn't exactly my goal this year. I'm just trying to learn what I can with these new, more advanced rally systems. Do you guys got anything you want to add for 2026 or anything else?
I mean, I'm pretty excited to go into 2026, especially with all the experience we gained through the 2025 season. I like the approach that you're taking with the driving, kind of taking it easy, be smooth, and build on that smoothness to build your speed. And I mean, of course, everybody on the team is great. We got a lot of experience now, so yeah, I'm excited to go into 2026, especially in a new class, a little faster car, and it's going to be good.
Awesome.
Yep, just looking forward to moving forward and building basically the Tittman rally team, moving it up.
Awesome. Ryan?
Yeah, it was good to watch you guys come together and, as a driver and co-driver, and you could see the speed really start to build over the last few rallies. So it's going to be exciting to see all that continue to be capitalized on in 26, I guess, even though we're not chasing a podium. It'll still be good to see you guys practicing and gaining speed and getting faster for the years to come.
Awesome. Dave?
I just want to go fast.
I call him a G-force slut. So yeah, it should be fun. There's a lot of interesting things in development. Looking forward to a good year in 2026. And stay tuned. We'll probably have some fun videos coming out in the future. And if you made it this far, you must be a real rally fan. So thank you for that. All right. That should cut it, guys.